sorry about that. We're just trying to make provision for streamlining, live streaming the final, and we are definitely done right now. So, Chair, you can definitely take over.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Abdullahi. I welcome you guys to the grand finals of the 9.0. Congratulations to all the teams in the finals first. Congratulations to everybody that participated in this one. Like I said, I have panelists in the room, and you can just replace all of us as panel instead of just one chair or whatever. My preferred pronoun is he, him. I don't think that would be necessary, but I needed to just clarify that. So, speakers, okay, first, before I just give modalities, I would like my panelists to introduce themselves if they can hear me clearly.
Hello everyone, I'm Adya, prefer general pronouns as she and her. I shall be the panelist in this round. Best of luck everyone.
Hey everyone, this is Himshal Jaramat, preferred pronounces she and her, and yeah, good luck to everyone. I'll be your panelist for this round.
Everyone, this is Srishti. Congratulations on making it to the open finals. I don't have any preferred gender pronouns. You can refer to me using any that come to your mind. With that being said, all the very best. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Alisa Mehdi and I'm a panelist for this round. I'm okay with any and all pronouns, but just refer to us as panel as a whole. Just good luck and rooting for all of you.
Hi everyone, I'm Ayodele Bolaji. I'll be your panelist for this round. Good luck to everyone.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I think that's all. The panel is going to be made up of six judges because I think one of the judges is unavailable. So we're going to have just six of us on panel. Um, so I don't think there are new things to say. So please quickly, please can the teams can just help me stipulate their speaking rules and speaking order in the chat box. Please let's respect equity rules. Let's respect one another. Given that I'm going to set the timer. Please state how you prefer to take your POIs. I hope since it's the final, I don't expect less. I think it's going to be interesting. Then with that being said, I think I'm going to welcome the Prime Minister to open the debate for us here.
All right. Hi. Am I audible? Just want to confirm. Hello. Am I audible?
You're
Hello.
audible.
All right. Thank you. I just want to inform Orcom that I don't consent on streaming. So is it possible that my speech would not be recorded?
Okay, let me see how that works quickly. I'll get back to you in like a minute.
All right. Thank you. Apologies for the inconvenience.
it's being recorded. So I think we missed that. Opposition to open the debate for the opposition side here. No, I think you're breaking badly. I can't hear you. I think it's still as bad. I don't know if you can just leave and join back immediately. Maybe it's going to be better.
Yeah, she's going to the beach. So sorry.
So is it me or she's still breaking? Can anybody hear her, or am I audible to everybody?
Yeah, you're clearly audible. She's very laggy. A bit.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Confirm. Can I be heard?
Yes, loud and clear. Apologies for the background noise, but you're loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you. So my name is Hassana. I'll be the deputy leader of opposition for the grand final. A couple of dedication coming from my speech. So I want to recognize some important key figures that has made me improve from in my debate. Shout outs to UILDC, University of Illinois Debates Community, for the couple of hard trainings. But secondly, also to my partner, you're one of a kind, Farhan. Thank you very much for we've come so far. Let's win. But also, to my family, thank you for the support and stuff like that. No matter how many tournaments I've lost so far since I started debating. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Okay, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1, go. For far too long, panel, we think the United States of America is one that has necessarily played a significant role in marginalizing or in playing an important role in disenfranchising Black African Americans within spaces that define themselves. These people have withstood thousands of decades of years of marginalization, of disenfranchisement, of segregation. We say we do not want that kind of world where we are not able to do things like liberation or do things like celebrate things like the Black Month history and stuff like that. Couple of clarification and framing coming from side opening opposition. The first question and the most important critique in this debate is that what is the Black History Month and why is it necessary to exist? Panel, we tell you that the history of the Black people is to exist to evaluate things like the history, like the necessary on why this Black History Month should exist is on the necessity that it should exist to evaluate things like the history of the Black people, their struggles within society, like their struggles within society and stuff like that. We say that this is very paramount to the emancipation and the kind of utility that they're going to get is strictly tied to this. But secondly, we think it is secondly, it is to celebrate the Black people in the US, and things like glorification is one that is very important, i.e. we say people like Martin Luther King Jr., people like Malcolm X, who fought for the liberty that we were denied as African American within states like US, were one that needs to be glorified, and we don't think that this case to run, that we should like sideline these individuals or not like give them the important recognition that they need, is one that is legitimate to come and run. For goodness sake, we were decades of being oppressed, and we say no more to that. But then we say that thirdly is that the kind of impact and the significant changes that they made to the society, right, and why it was like a very key important thing to recognize is that for example, the rise of the Black community against the case of George Floyd that makes things better for the Black people, right? It brought about a drastic reduction in like things like oppression in their workplaces and daily activities. But panel, secondly, is that we create a sphere to evaluate the problems that Black people face, regardless of things like race, things like gender, and stuff like that. This is a phase, or this is a fair sphere where we can evaluate our problems, come together as a society that has been marginalized for a long period of time. We say we do not want to give up this opportunity. This is our only utility, and we're going to hold on to that very important piece of characterization. But then the question is, why is it principally unjustified? We say one, it's because you're rejecting things like the identity of the Blacks. And we say that the identity of Blacks was one that is strictly tied to things like high oppressive states, where they were marginally, like things like slavery, things like colonization that continue to exist within status quo. We say we do not want to reject the identity and integration, and it portrays our identity as a people. We think our identity is one that needs to be glorified as an existence and as like a kind of metric to show community of what the sufferings we have withstood within the spaces that we find ourselves. But then, panel, we think secondly is that, like we've told you on the presentation of identities and the struggles that exist. But secondly is that on the drawback, you do things like draw back the progress of Blacks within states like the US. It means that it looks like you taking us back to a timeline where you find Blacks problematics, right? Where Black people necessarily were marginalized, right? Where white policemen could not necessarily see a young kid in the streets and necessarily tag him as things like terrorism and stuff like that as Blacks being problematic. We say we do not want to go back to that kind of timeline where we affect the community optics and the way community view us as people who are aggressive and people who are problematic to ourselves. We say no to that kind of word. But then we do not want to be labeled as aggressive individuals and people who are not reasonable enough to be able to engage within the decision making that affects us as a state. But secondly, is that you escalate the sufferings of Black people marginally, i.e., is things like suffering and things like where Black individuals or African Americans have no resources. For goodness sake, these people have things like no access to healthcare, education, and employment, right? We say you escalate this suffering of these Black people when you neglect the fact of the kind of sufferings or the kind of harm down that they have gone through within society. That's the kind of things you're going to be doing within society, and OG needs to bring a clear justification as to why that should continue to exist. But then we think people are going to bring, aside from escalating the suffering of these people, we think things like emotion is one that's going to be playing a key role in the principle of this debate. It means people are going to sprung out of irrational behaviors. You're going to get a whole lot of spark out of irrational behaviors coming from these marginalized individuals at the end of the day, because you have pushed them far too much to a place where they have no option but to retaliate, because you give them no metric of recognition and no reparation for the stuff you have done to them in the past and in the future. But then we think these people will find a kind of metric to be able to justify their irrational behavior. It means they're going to take laws into their own hands. It's where you see things like riots, right? Where you see people bombing police stations and stuff like that, right? That's the kind of ideology you want to bring. We do not want a world where they find us problematic or where we find an excuse to be able to take justice into our own hands. We think that is problematic. But then second argumentation is on education and enlightenment. We think we need to be able to enlighten people on the issues, on the suffering, on the past sufferings, past historical events that have happened. It means we need to exist as a society where we are able to critique the kind of information we give to our youth without necessarily diluting it, or without like different people, like without other people diluting it at the end of the day. But then, panel, we think like that's the only way we can solve things like hate speech and things like racism and stuff like that. But thirdly, is on the vocalization of reparation. It means we are able to get people to we are able to vocalize first the government to talk about what the Black people want and what they need within status quo. It means we are able to hold the government accountable. Panel, these people have all the right to be celebrated because they have suffered enough, and we say like here, proudly opening opposition.
All right, we thank the leader of that remarkable speech. We will now welcome the Deputy Prime Minister to close the case for opening government. Here.
Hello, am I audible? Like loud and clear?
Loud and clear. Ready when you are.
Okay. Before I actually start my speech, since it's getting live streamed, I'm just gonna, give a bit of shout out for the cloud. First, shout out to my partner from Random Pro AMV. She's actually here listening on the tournament, though she didn't participate. Chuluane, thank you. As for shout out to my partner, because we weren't expecting that we're gonna reach the finals at all, because we only joined for practice and experiencing a different circuit because we're from the Philippine circuit. So this was a great learning curve, or a great learning experience for us. So thank you very much for the tournament. And shout out to my, of course, org mates. And shout out to Ate Bea, which is the Lomel of Kuya Sam, for listening in, even though it's it's 1 a.m. in the morning here. Yeah. Okay. POI's true voice, preferably at the 5-minute mark, but please don't badger. Yeah, POI's true voice, 5-minute mark. Pronouns, see him, but I don't really care. Use whatever you want or you're comfortable with. It's not that big a deal for me. Starting my speech. And 3, 2, 1. 3 main pushes in my speech, right? First, how does this then impact the stakeholders of this debate? Secondly, why then are the African community incentivized to opt into this? And thirdly, I'll meta this debate on why we're winning against opening opposition and why we're winning as early as opening government. But before that, my response is, this debate is not about whether or not the existence of Black History Month is good or bad, but whether or not the African community should accept or reject the month. Yes, we know that it provides recognition about the contributions of MLK and Malcolm X, but the question is then, is it holistic? We posit that it is not, because it's catered to the Western centrist leaders. Note, there are leaders and forefronts of African American leaders that are from the African state, and these people deserve recognition and spotlight too. But it won't happen due to 2 structural reasons, which the PM provided to you, which was of course not responded to you from the leader of the opposition. We then question, is it the proximate obligation of the African community? We posit that it is not. The priority is towards the current marginalized African Americans, that those future generations. This is true because these people are alive in effects that they need massive changes. And even if the future generations, infinitely more numerate, because there's hundreds and billions of African Americans will still exist. So the utilitarian we're winning in the utilitarian metric. And there's more obligation because past generations, such as Martin Luther King, have guaranteed that we have a better well-being in the present, which is their future. It is in their obligation to invest in the future to make sure to keep our obligations in the past. We benefit then when we fight now instead of celebrating, because PM is clear that the fight is still not enough for us to start celebrating, right? This proves in terms of weighing, they're still already out of this debate. They then say that we deprive them of their identity. Leader of the opposition is not listening to the speech of Prime Minister. What we're against is, why do you put the history of the African community into only a month when the issues should be discussed in totality or in a year? We even posit that we need to push back the Black history towards the educational curriculum so it can be more inclusive, which we solve. That's why we solved their problem. And again, leader of the opposition was not engaging. They posited then that they can make states accountable. There's literally no mechanization from them to back up and to be frank, majority of their arguments lack logical link to late, and it's too late for DLO to build that since it's backloading. And according to the Woodsy manual, that's against the rules and we can't respond to it anymore because that's unfair. And all expects to their side as the key to utopia and all the sufferings of the Black community on their side, but sadly they don't, and they didn't even mechanize it well. Now to my first question. push. How does this then impact the stakeholders of this debate? We posit that due to it being a month alone, it congests and barricades the potential of discourse. This is true since the deep-seated damaging factors, i.e. police brutality, can't and won't be discussed nor mitigated enough. This is true insofar the focus of the people get congested not only on the shallow aspect of history. What happens in Black History Month even? This month is used as a means of education, educating other people about their history, but this is just not enough as posited by Sam. We, from OG, posit that it should be integrated in the mainstream curriculum year-round. This would ensure that all Americans, regardless of race, are educated on the important contributions of African Americans throughout history. What is the impact then? This ensures that on an educational level, we allow not only for the Black Americans to have a full scope and understanding of their history, but as well as other races that have been far ignorant of these matters, and they see it as an isolated case. That's why they're getting brushed aside, right? Why is this then beneficial? We say that we have a higher mainstream capacity to lessen the possibility of racism. Note, we're not saying that we eliminate it, but we lessen it. So, of course, you can pinpoint that. This looks like children learning from young age about what happened historically wise through the educational systems and schools. This is true insofar that it allows for everyone to be more knowledgeable about that said history. They are then incentivized to learn it since it's part of their curriculum, and two, it has become mainstream. It has become mainstream knowledge, so everyone has to keep up, right? This is by far larger in impact since the younger generation is the future. This means long-term wise, they have the capacity to be more knowledgeable about such factors. So in the metric of long-term, we're winning. But sure, even if UP tells us that this is not exclusive, there are still movements in society like the BLM movement. Understand that such factors are not enough since the premise of the movement becomes diluted on what it really aims to do due to the fractioning within it. Yet we even posit that there's a lack of capacity to teach what the Black community has truly experienced, insofar that this is a movement that has their own segments, so the distribution of knowledge to the younger individuals is by far less in comparison to opening government. But even if you still don't buy this, and UP still might say that Black History Month provides a platform for advocacy, since Black History Month can provide a platform for issues of racial inequality, we say that this platforms is not exclusive. It exists in our status quo. There's so many platforms, especially with the rise of social media and internet, like platforms such as podcasts, Spotify channels, or YT channels, and even interviews. So the platforms that they may try to posit is not exclusive, and we even tell you that it becomes far better on our end. Since the historical knowledge on Black Americans becomes mainstream, then the influx of knowledge and discovery becomes commonplace, which then leads to more topics for discourse, which lead to more people willing to talk about it in other social media platforms. This shows that we're better by gravity of impact. That's three metrics we're winning against upright. If UP says that, ask us that why would this platform willingly opt into discourse about it? Understand that since it's mainstream, then the knowledge becomes such a common discourse conversation that everyone will opt into it, right? Like what's happening in the current status quo. Why then are the African community incentivized to opt into this? Oh, before that, POI.
Yeah, firstly, you need to talk about the mutual exclusivity of having this in the curriculum in our world. In our world, we can still have it in schools and do all the things that you preach. You need to talk about how Black History Month is bad intrinsically.
You're not listening to our speeches. This is mutually exclusive due to opportunity costs. You can't actually co-opt this and you can't celebrate it because it's not like because at the same time fighting for the right is not like right. It's not high time right now, right? Why are then the African community incentivized? So that burden push doesn't work, right? Why are then the African communities incentivized to opt into this? Firstly, apart from this impacting the younger members of the community, it also impacts the younger members of the status quo as a whole. They're incentivized even more since the tangible benefits exist in our status quo. Secondly, since this puts history of the Black community and the African community through a continuous flow of knowledge that spreads everyone, then of course it's beneficial to them. Thirdly, they will opt into this because the platform that they will open up to people under this by far more beneficial than the current one, so they get even more voice. And within this, it's clear that the incentives exist in OG. Let's meta this with the short time that I have. What does this then prove? Meta by metric, gravity and scale of impact. This is far more important than the metric in this debate, since the debate is happening in the real world with people, movements, and communities that need tangible, pragmatic impacts. We say that the team that impacts the most people beneficially is winning. This metric is fair and just. Why are we winning in this metric? We showed you that we impact the most people because the political and social changes only happen when you pressure the state and create. This is where you can create reparations and push for accountability. Literally, LO never responded on the principal arguments of PM. Our argument still flies and it's relevant even to the end of this debate. And I've showed you pragmatic impacts and why the African community is incentivized. And this is exclusive on opening government. Closing government cannot co-opt this. Opening opposition can backload because their DPM or their DLO does not have that capacity. And I think with that, I've won this debate. We've won this debate. Thanks. This is our fourth OG.
Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister.
We will now welcome the Deputy Leader of Opposition to round off the speech for the opening half. Here.
All right. Hi everybody. Sure, can I be heard clearly?
Yes, you are clear.
Beautiful. Hi guys. My name is Farhan, and I'll be Deputy Leader of Opposition for today's debate. POI is exclusive in the chat. If you have a POI, put it in the chat, please. Please don't mute yourself at any point. I would like to take a POI from closing government, and I also like that closing government take a POI. Ajake, this is directly to you. You know they take POI, but no, Allah. If you like, say you're going to take a POI and you don't take a POI. I think POIs are good for engagement and all that. Yeah, shout out. Personally, just shout out to my partner, Hassana. She did a whole lot, and I'm really glad that we're able to make it to the finals. And shout out to everybody that participated in the tournaments and put in their best. Let's hope to. I'm not begging. As I can just. Yeah, all right. So let's have a fun debate. We're already having a fun debate, so let's continue. Yeah, shout out to OC. Shout out to OC. You guys are doing amazing. It's a good one. Right. My timer is here. Once again, PY is exclusive in the charts. I'm going to keep you from closing government if you have one or even opening. Right. All right, guys. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's interrogate what you get from opening government in today's debate. Opening government tells you that let's reject Black History Month and focus on harmonizing or harnessing more inclusion for Black individuals and focusing on the problem that Black individuals are facing in society and actually allow for, for us to solve those problems themselves. I don't see why this is mutually exclusive. From the framing that you get from my partner already told you that the ability for individuals to have Black History Month itself is vocalizing the problem that Black individuals face in society currently and try to solve it. That is currently in status quo. The Black History Month that literally just passed, you have a lot of individuals vocalizing the things like massive shooting that exists in the Black communities and how exactly you can try to solve those problems. It's not mutually exclusive. You can still solve those problems in that regard. They tell you, education can be done through incorporation of things like schools. I already said in my flag it in my POI that this is not mutually exclusive, but they respond by saying, oh, we can't do it because of opportunity cost. I really don't understand what is the meaning of opportunity cost. Because if we are doing Black History Month, it's not as if the government is donating $1 billion to Black communities and giving them and dashing them money just because they are celebrating Black History Month. Black History Months are done by individuals by themselves, capitalists or businesses who go out there, celebrate Black History Month, discusses, conferences, discussion, different things are happening. Government is not spending a ridiculous amount of money. Even if government is spending money, it's not even up to 1/4 of what is spent in an election, for example. I don't think the harm on cost is one that is exclusive on all this kind of stuff. But you also need to evaluate the effectiveness of the schools. How many people actually read books to understand and properly understand them? Even though you incorporate it in schools, people don't care about those shit. People care about things that are more on the mainstream media. People want to engage with media, social media, discourses, Twitter spaces, different conferences that are happening on that particular regard. So in our world, we can have that in schools, but we also have Black History Month that weaponizes the mainstream media to be able to enlighten people and educate them about what is going on in that regard. But let's talk about their biggest argument on tokenism and how you have focus on one timeline. They say, Black History Month is not good because it's just celebration for 1 month. This argument recognizes fundamentally that Black History Month is good, but the only problem that they have is that Black History Month is not enough, that 1 month is not enough. If that's your problem, we are fine. We can extend it to 2 months or 3 months. But the fundamental case or the fundamental principle behind this case is extremely flawed because they say, Blacks are not going to care about Blacks anymore. They're just going to focus on Black issues for that 1 month. After that 1 month, we no longer care about being Blacks. That's a ridiculous logic because you don't forget that you are being born just because you celebrate your birthday for 1 day in a year. You still remember that you are being born in society and you try to progress and advance as a person. But it means then that the celebration of individuals within 1 month doesn't necessarily mean they're going to forget about their existence or their problems, just because the end of the month comes into play or it's just for 1 month. People still remember all those things that happen to them because these are things that affect them direly. These are the things that they face, the problem that they face exactly in society. They have every single incentive to actually speak up against those problems and establish discourses, even though it's not in Black History Month. But let's talk about the idea behind commodification and how, there's capitalism. I don't see why that is bad because they say it set a drawback on the progress we're able to achieve as a minority group. How? What exactly does it do? I mean, we live in a capitalistic society, but that means that for you to thrive, even as a minority, you need definitely even have Black History Month on them so that they can be able to gain money and move up the social economic ladder. I don't think that's one that is extremely bad. Even African American societies need to participate in that capitalism to progress. We live in a capitalistic economy, and that's one that's ultimately important. I think I've engaged with their biggest argumentations, and I've shown you how it doesn't fit into this space. What is Black History Month? And I think my partner have done a very good job about this idea, right? I told you that Black History Month do three things. Number one is prove to you it celebrates intrinsically the kind of problems and the kind of things that Black individuals have faced in that particular regard. But number two, talk about the progress of Black individuals currently in status quo. But number three, evaluate what Black individuals need moving into the future. These discourses are important, and it can't be done on a minor ground. It has to be done on a major ground. Black History Month creates a platform that individuals have the ability to engage with the issue. Once again, this doesn't mean that after Black History Month, we're no longer going to care about Blacks anymore. It means that we are just setting out this time to excessively celebrate what Black individuals mean. Principally, it is important to exist because these struggles are tied to the identities of these individuals. What it means is that Black History Month must exist because of the representation of the identities and past struggles of these particular individuals in themselves. But I need to give more analysis on the drawback on progress. What does the drawback on progress looks like? For far too long, individuals in Black communities have been labeled to be violent, have been labeled to be aggressive, have been labeled to be unreasonable, that they don't understand what is going on in status quo, and they do only just care about themselves. Now, for a while now, we've been able to achieve being a very civil, understanding group in community by showing that, we are a platform that we're going to try to engage with the system more radically and more responsibly. What you do by rejecting this is that you literally tell the world that you don't give a shit about what black individuals have been able to achieve. You don't give a shit about what they have been able to achieve over time, but only what you care about is that you want to be able to radically achieve all the things that you currently don't have in status quo. And we think that creates that drawback. It sends us back to the situation where individuals think that blacks are actually the aggressive one and blacks are actually the problematic one. You're not going to be able to achieve any solvency as a minority group this way. Why? Because you don't exist in a bubble. You need community optics. You need to be able to engage with people that exist outside of your community in that regard. Closing government, POI. Closing government.
So Farhan, would you accept when something is termed the history of Islam, but it only entails the history of how Muhammad married a lot of wives? Do you accept that as the history of Islam?
I think the baseline of that idea is that Black History Month only talks about one thing. I think that's ridiculous. Black History Month doesn't talk about one thing. Black History Month talks about a lot of things. I've given you the three things that are established within Black History Month. I've also shown you how in status quo, the recent Black History Month established not just the success of the predecessors, but also talk about the problem that Black communities currently face in status quo and how we can try to solve them. And this leads me to the idea of the vocalization of the problem that exists in status quo that my partner showed you. Solvency is important, and we need a mechanism as a minority group to achieve that solvency. Opening government tried to be smart by saying, we can't backlog by providing more like mechanization. I think the mechanization you gave my partner was really enough, because she told you that social media mainstream is one that allows us to be able to have more engagement with individuals, clear things like stereotypes. The ability for you to clear things like stereotypes already provide the mechanism that you have the ability to educate more people. And the ability to educate more people means that you're able to establish the problem that exists in status quo, and thereby coagulating a lot of individuals to actually hold the governmental structures to be able to solve those problems in themselves. If you say that the WC manual doesn't allow DLO to do things like backlogging, I think you agree with me that the WC manual allows for DLO to provide things like more analysis to a case to buttress how that case actually stands in today's debates. Very proud to come from open opposition. The idea then is that how best do you allow for people to integrate with the community? You allow for people to integrate and collaborate and engage with the community by providing a platform by which you can vocally talk about the problems that exist, but more principally celebrate the successes there. And this leads me to my last argument, that the celebration of the successes are not just limited to Martin Luther King. It's also including things like LeBron James in society, Steph Curry, and many Black individuals that are doing extremely well currently, so that you can provide things like iconography and mentorship and motivation for individuals that live within Black communities to actually come and thrive. We don't forget that we are born in the world just because we celebrate our birthday once in a year. We still celebrate ourselves, but it's important for us to have that birthday once in a year. Proud to come from OO.
Yeah, we thank the deputy leader of the opposition for his remarkable speech. I thought I was muted, but I didn't. But we will now welcome the member of government to open the debate.
Okay, am I audible? Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
All right. So I think my Discord is. If there's any time I call my attention. All right. So to my OAU debate, I dedicate this to your growth. I dedicate this to DSM. It's nice pulling this up to the OEC at large. And lastly, I dedicate this to my partner. It has been a nice run. Round one. All right. So POIs in the text space. I will try to take one. Okay. So I'll begin. I'll begin in 3, 2, 1. Panel, there is a reason why every Negro in the US is reminded of the ideology of negritude and the diasporian idea and exposed to the Harlem literatures that talks about blackness, the black literature that encompasses things like African culture and all these particular things. The reason for that is because the origin of African Americans in the US is not the US. Their origin is Africa, because these guys were taken from Africa and spread abroad, right? That's why every Negro kid, and that's the idea of negritude, and this is what they have been exposed to by birth. Every Negro kid share this idea that one day I will see my motherland, because they share an emotional bond with Africa, right? And they view it as their origin and their history, right? Slavery is not their history. US is not their history. Notice also, let us also look at the Eurocentric approach to Black history globally, right? You will realize that the Western narrative of Black history has always been very narrow to a time frame of colonialism and what happens after colonialism, right? Because that's what Western literatures will talk about Black history and African history as a whole. They normally say that before colonialism, Africa is a dark continent and don't have any form of history. Like, this is the preponderant narrative that exists. But then also realize, right, that the Black history that is celebrated by Ireland, the Western world generally, Ireland, UK, US, and Canada, and those other things, the theme, right, of Black history is not an encompassing Black history, because African Americans are not the only Blacks in the world, right? We have Africans, right, who are the originators of Blacks in the world. Notice, the theme has always been about the time frame of the theme, and the time frame of the historical celebration of Black history has always been about things that happened during colonialism and post-colonialism, denying the fact that a Black history already exists before then, right? And it is very, very preposterous and a huge, stupid audacity for you to come up and then say the history of Blacks is only slavery and colonialism, denying the fact that we have ancient civilizations that exist before colonialism. We have direct many impacts of Black power, right, before colonialism. The existence of this, and this is where this principle comes in, right? As a principle, because you must put yourself, panel, in the shoe of an African American. As an African American, weigh up the principles in this room, and from a third person's perspective, is it justified for an African American to reject the Black history? For two reasons. One, it is justified for two reasons. One, because of the ardent curiosity of a negritude, in an average negroid in US or in the West. Their curiosity is that one day they will unite with their motherland, which is Africa, by trying their best to unite themselves with African history, which is their origin. Secondly, they also have this direct reverence to Harlem Renaissance literature that talks about African culture, the Black beauty, and all those particular things, right? And that's why pop music, hip hop, originates to discuss, right, blackness and the beauty of blackness all over the world and particular things. The relation of this particular person directly to their history is one that is enough for this to be rejected. Because the Western world generally have this condescending narcissistic attitude that anything they do is globally, right? So that's why they have the audacity to say, oh, slavery, right? And slavery resistance and colonialism and particular things is black history. And also particular things is one that is disingenuous as on a principle, right? You as an African American who has an emotional bond with your origin should reject such shallow nomenclature as your history and then reject that himself. This analysis, this principled analysis, is different from what you get from OG. Because OG said, oh, it's not encompassing all Africa, all black leaders, right? That is, you need to encompass all black leaders. We are specific with what the motion wants, because the motion is about an African American generally, and not just African American leaders being included in black channels for things. And that's how come HAS is much more encompassing in terms of principle, right? Farhan, shoot.
If your problem is that we don't talk about our origins in Africa enough, then why not include it in the discourses in Black History Month instead of the celebration?
The reason why you shouldn't include it, on a principle, I'm coming there. The reason why you shouldn't include it is because the celebration is directly orchestrated by oppressors and it's programmed by oppressors and handed by oppressors and handed over to the oppressed. That is, there is no semblance of contribution of the oppressed as to how they are celebrated. You are the one who determine their life, and now they should be celebrated, right? So even in your best world, if you include that, let us also include African history all over the world, and this is Black history, it is still bad because it doesn't recognize the contributions of African scholars to that particular history because of that westernized, Eurocentric approach to African history and those particular things. That's why your world is still bad, even if you say you want to include it, right? If you want to do it, don't celebrate it in the US. Celebrate it in Africa, right? And this is why it makes sense, right? So you cannot say, oh, today we are regretting it as that happened. But then secondly, it is wrong to approach regret motions like that, oh, we can fix things in society. No, regret motion is not about what will happen. Finally, not very importantly, regret motion is not about what will happen. Regret motion is about what has already happened, what is obtainable in society, and why we regret it. So it is flawed for parents to come and say that, oh, you're going to include 3 months, oh, you're going to include African history. Is that obtainable in status quo as of now? No. We need to regret status quo. You need to defend status quo in your word. That's why you're really not losing this bit. The next thing we tell you is that it denies all forms of reparations. Because this is very important, right? The reparation that blacks need, right, isn't just celebrating their sufferings. Because the blacks contribute hugely to the progress of the society. During agrarian times, the blacks were the ones that were used to work lands of the West, right? And also Latin. The West prosper in this kind of world because they did not pay for labor, right? Meaning, without the blacks, right, the agrarian prosperity of the Western world wouldn't have existed. But then notice, the kind of prosperity, like asymmetry with blacks now, isn't one that is prosperous, right? Because 80% of poverty is associated with African Americans in the US and in the Western world automatically. But then they contributed to your, to your agrarian subsidy before the industrial world. That if you contribute to your agrarian subsidy before the industrial world, Latin, the denial of that reparation to them, you just say, oh, we need to celebrate their suffering. It's a contrasting denial because most of them are poor, right? So what celebration are you, what contribution or what success are you celebrating, right? When the vast majority of them are poor, right? Even if you are poor, those are just exceptions. The vast majority of them are poor, and it is the vast majority of them that contributed to your success as a nation. Celebrating their suffering, saying it's not enough. I, as an African American, will deny Black history.
We thank the member of government for the remarks. Please, after we will now welcome the member of opposition to open the debate for closing opposition. Here.
Hi, can I be heard? Is this audible?
Loud and clear.
Yeah. So just give me a second. I get my notes together. And also, as I'm getting my notes together, I just want to say, I I shout out to Raymond, my partner, for being there for me and always like chatting me up and encouraging me. I want to thank for Yinsa. He's come to watch this final. I want to thank like everyone, Tulu. I want to thank you. I just want to thank all my friends who've been there. So like, regardless of what happens in this final, like I had a good run. I really, really had a good run. Okay. When I see the timer, like I'm gonna run an external timer, but I just want the time. Oh, also shout out to Henry Coffey. He came to see me. Thank you. Regardless of what happens. All right, the timer is there. Put the POIs in the text space. Hopefully I thank you. Hopefully I don't. Hey, we have tons of things to say. Okay, I'm gonna start this speech in 3. I'm gonna start this speech. This thing should put 7:15, please. This thing of like 7 just confuses 7.
Don't worry, after it, I'm definitely counting the 15 seconds for you. I'm not budging it.
Okay, that's the first. Okay, I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1, go. Pano, at get-go, this whole misconstrued idea from all government teams that Black History Month is Eurocentric is extremely, I don't know, it's extremely bad. I'm happy I took history as a model last year to help me win this debate. Understand, I think one, it's not Eurocentric because of 2 specific things. Black History Month exists from what you call the Negro History Week, which existed in 1946. That is to say when Black History Month began from Negro Week. That is to say Black History Month has its existence from Black individuals. So there's nothing damn Eurocentric about that. But secondly, understand, it is Black scholars who contribute to Black History Month. That is to say, this whole idea of Eurocentric doesn't necessarily make sense, and they were just riding on it that they don't have specific things. CG is the easiest thing to take out. Why? CG's whole claim is that, guys, hear this. We don't want to reject Black History Month because it's going to detach us. It's going to refuse us with the ability to attach to the African continent. We don't think that's necessarily true. We think West Africa, Southern Africa, and East Africa all pay tribute to all those people who left and are in America. So we don't think that's specifically realistic. But Raymond will deal more with them. But I want to specifically deal with OG. Because OG has this whole opportunity cost claim, blah, blah, blah. And I think there are 2 fundamental things which are important. There's so-called fractionization, and I'm going to explain why that fractionization doesn't specifically happen and explain to you our case and why it wins today's debate. Fractionization, understand, we don't think any fractionization happens with the Black Lives Matter movement, specifically because of 2 mechanisms. One, we think they still face the same exact issues. That is to say, they are still beaten up by police. They are still they still face the same systematic issues that they have. That is to say, Black people don't have reason to break up because of the specific issues that they continuously face. But secondly, because of the fact that they face the conversations within Black people are not left around because the point is that they have the same exact issues, which prevents them from that fractionization which exists. At a point in time where they didn't have those specific issues that they're all facing, then that fractionization would happen. But here, guess what? That fractionization doesn't happen specifically because they share the same exact experiences. But more important, and that takes their whole opportunity fractionization idea. But secondly, understand the Black Lives Matter movement has more social capital against it because of the media and what happened in 2020 specifically. I get my timer paused and I pause my timer here. What's up? Did I break?
And I
break.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Breaking.
I think you're still breaking now.
Yo, how? Let me just reconnect.
Okay, I think it's better now. Can you just probably read the motion? Let me be sure I can hear you loud and clear. Because you were breaking off and I don't want your time to waste.
Specifically to avoid load shedding because of this. But can you hear me now? I bought data to avoid this.
Yes,
problems.
Yeah, you know.
Where did you? I know I have a feeling of where you lost me, but I don't know where you lost me. Yeah, I don't know. Other chairs are complaining. Other panelists. Oh, this can kill your enthusiasm to continue.
Oh, it's my I'm so sorry. I honestly apologize. I actually it started breaking for a few seconds, and I had to be sure I would. It has to be me or him. So you were trying. You have gone well into explaining that black issues still exist. So these people do not have reasons to break up and all of. You were trying to explain. So.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Just give me like 10 seconds to pick like my thoughts together. Ooh, okay, I have 5 minutes on the clock. I think I should reset this one. Okay. I'm gonna start in 3, 2, 1, go. As I said, the Black Lives Matter movement has enough social capital because of the whole 22 George Floyd idea that at the end of the day, it has the capability to engage activism, other levels of activism that OG says. That is to say, I've tried to engage the two strong mechanisms that come from OG. Raymond will will win from them because I've engaged those two strong mechanisms, but Raymond will have more intricate and more detailed rebuttal. Panel, understand. I'm going to engage two things. One, I'm going to engage why it is dangerous to reject Black History Month, then engage why it's important. Understand, by not engaging Black History Month, we whitewash the Black contribution which specifically exists. For you to appreciate this point, let me give you characterization. Panel, understand. There is a push right now to erase Black History Month and the Black injustices that happen to the Black people within America, specifically under the narrative of Make America Great Again. Why? This exists under the critical race theory that claims that Black people are the reason America is falling currently. That is to say, with the combination of the critical race theory that's currently happening, Black people are said to be the ones that why America is not specifically getting great again. That is to say, they are being capitalized as the reasons America is specifically suffering. Why is this incredibly important? At a point in time that even the structural mechanisms that they specifically had are being broken down. That is to say, at a point where you reject Black History Month, you deny them the only quality and tangible mechanism of Black History Month to ensure that they push their specific narratives. That is to say, Black History Month is the one tangible mechanism Black people have where white people are going to kiss their ass and ensure that they switch specific policies to enable them do well. At a point where you remove that specific tangible mechanism, you create problems. Understand why a world where we don't have this becomes extremely bad. One, you whitewash Black contribution. That is to say, Black individuals like Martin Luther King and all these Black people who contribute to the American history begin to whitewash. Why is this harmful? It plays into the harmful narrative of the critical race theory that Black people are the reasons why America is not getting great. What's the impact of this? You then exacerbate movements and you then create the factions of the KKK who come up and buy into those specific narratives. Why is this specifically true? This is why we have an influx in the Republic, influx in people who support the Republicans because of that whole Make America Great and the critical race theory. Understand why side government's world becomes harmful. And this engages their best case. In the best case, we create Black whitewashing of Black contribution, which plays into the critical race theory allegations by them. That is, so we then create factions of the KKK who rise up to go against Black people. We think we then disenfranchise them. But the second impact here is on how you hamper other specific minority groups. Understand, one, the Black individuals are the biggest minority group that you find in America. At a point in time where you deny them that specific power, you leave other groups become more vulnerable because they don't have the same buy-in that Black people necessarily have. This is specifically true because of the control politicians have in terms of the policies which exist in America. That is to say, politicians have a heavy influence on the policies which get to make, which policies get to be made. That is to say, when Obama put the Obamacare, it is politicians who certified against it. I think that shows you the power. That is to say, that world becomes extremely bad not only for Black people but also for other minority groups and even though they're Philippine people, they're going to become bad. Our case. Why this? Why the Black History Month acts as a specific check and balance to counter the whitewashing of the whitewashing of Black contributions? Understand. At a point in time, I explained to you the critical race theory, and this is the important analysis. Why is this important? At a point in time, it shows that Black History Month is the only tangible mechanism because it's only at Black History Month that you have white MNC companies taking part to show their contribution to tap into the black market, to tap into the black population. It's only at that point, that is to say, Black History Month is the one tangible mechanism that they then have. And we think it's extremely important. But understand, the second part of this argument, the first one is like on how you check mechanisms, that is to say you gain more support for the Black Lives Matter movement, and like we check that whole like stupid critical race thing. But the second is that one, we improve America's image. Why? Understand, at a point in time, Black History Month shows the progression and the energy America has put to solve Black issues. Why is this important? At a specific point in time, America is viewed to see that Black people contributed to America's greatness. That is to say, we are more likely to change stereotypes at a point in time where we show that Black people had the contribution. Meaning, we disregard the whole critical race theories which are against Black people. That is to say, we improve America's image to show that one, it came from the Negro History Week to the Black History Month. Meaning, America has more incentive because the Black History Month is improving that image. How is this true? One, Black History Month was adopted in the UK and Canada. That is to show America was the inceptor of this specific thing. Meaning, you improve the American image, and as you improve the American image, you give them more incentive to care about Black specific problems and help better them. But you also specifically change stereotypes. What have I done? I showed you a two paradigm case. One, why it is bad to specifically reject, but secondly, why rejecting is extremely harmful. One, why? Why we don't reject. We provide a check and balance specifically for the critical race theory and the whole Make America Great Again. But secondly, it improves America's image, which becomes extremely good for Black people because that image would have improved because of Black people. Proud to be civil.
Okay, thank you very much, member of opposition. It's such a reminder that after 7 minutes, 15 seconds, we are not taking anything down. We'll now welcome the government whip to close the debate for the entire government bench.
Yeah, Ajake, please check your DM. Check your DM now, please. My phone is about to hang off.
Government whip,
Is there
we're
an
waiting
issue?
for you. Government whip, we're waiting for you and we're ready when you are ready.
Are you sure they're on the call?
Government whip, are you there? Member of government, is there any issue on your side? I mean, on side.
I'm sorry, panel. He's trying to.
Member of government, can you contact your partner, please?
Yeah. He said he's trying to switch his device.
Government, please, we are waiting on you guys to round up the speech for your side. Please, if you can help us contact your partner soon, member of government.
Yeah, so CAP has decided in 3 minutes to move over to opposition whip if they don't turn up, because this has really taken longer than expected.
All right, in 3 minutes, that's
Yeah, I kindly move. Yes, so 3 minutes starts now.
problem. At 46, I have to.
Opposition whip, kindly confirm that you don't have network problems.
In 2 minutes.
All right, so it's coming. My father is coming. He just texted me the number is going to use, so I've sent him the Discord link so he can join us. So sorry for the inconvenience.
All right.
I think it's already 46. We need to move on with the tournament. Let's go by the captain's rule.
So am I audible now?
Sorry.
Hello, am I audible?
Government whip.
Am I audible?
I want to be sure we're speaking government whip or up whip.
Yeah, the government whip.
Thank you very much. I was just about to move on. You're audible, loud and clear. Apologies, everybody, for the delay. We'll proceed now. We welcome the government whip to close the debate for the government.
All right, thank you, guys. POI is taking on the chat space. Sorry about that. My phone went off immediately. The previous speaker was done speaking, and I couldn't just charge up. I have to change device. So once again, I'm sorry. All right. Please. It's okay. Thank you. Sorry. I'll put your eyes in the chat space. I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Speaker, the reason why the entire opposition lost this debate is on their idea that during the Black History Day or History Month, the level of narrative or the level of teaching or narratives that will be sold on that day are contingent on the suffering, the struggles, and the realities of the Black people in the United States and ultimately within the species where you are literally being colonized and plundered, right? I think that is the benchmark, like that's the build block of their argument. Let's weigh up opposition in this debate, right? What you heard from opposition is the idea that there was systemic marginalization, there was exploitation, there was slavery, there was colonization, and at this core, there was plunder of the Black people. We concede that is true, right? At the end of the day, they say the reason why this history day is that it's going to create a day of orientation and a day of trying to glorify those struggles and more importantly, strengthen the existence of the Black people within that space, right? But secondly, they say that it's a way of showing appreciation and a way of glorifying Black actors, Black heroes who more often fought for the liberation of the Black people within the context of the space that they agree for, right? The reason why this doesn't reflect the collective history of the Black people and why we reject that. When you look at the organization of Black History Day, it's an event like a synod. It's an event like a synod that is being organized by certain elites, right? By certain white folks within the space of the societies in which they tell you, right? But in that instance, right, it's a way of trying to romanticize the idea of the Black people that, oh, we care about your history, we care about you, oh, we ultimately value the struggles of your giving you a day to more likely celebrate. That level of validation in and of itself is inherently bad, right? But let's engage them at their events, right? We think that romanticization of the idea of Black actors and Black heroes who fought for certain liberation of the Black folks in certain spaces are things that are already in the status quo through so many journals, so many history, so many literature articles, and ultimately so many antecedents that more often individuals, even here, like generation yet unborn, are still going to get across, right? So I wasn't born with Martin Luther King performed his magic, right? But ultimately I knew about him, I read about him, so I know so many things about him, right? So necessarily organizing a single day that proliferates the existence of that man or show how glorified or how hero, like how hilarious he was, necessarily doesn't connote like the entire narrative of the Black people. What did closing bring to you? They say, oh, that this like whitewash the struggles of the Black people. this nuance in itself isn't different from what we heard from opening opposition. Because at the end of the day, there was a consensus from both opening and closing opposition that this event in itself is a day to celebrate the struggles of the Black people. More importantly, to bring them on the limelight. We don't think that this in itself is like a new achievement, owing to the fact that history and reparations over time have existed, where the Jim Crow laws have been changed in order to augment the realities of the Black people in the United States. So we don't think that this singular day in itself is going to create change. Why then did we reject it? And what did Ajake tell you? We think the history of the Black people, if you want to interrogate and teach about it, ought to be about the civilization of the Black people, the achievement of the Black people, not only in the United States, not only based on the Eurocentric narrative and view or perceptive narrative of the Euro people. We think it cut across like the achievement of Nigerians, it cut across like the Aboriginals in Ghana, the Aboriginals in Kenya, the achievement of African civilization in Egypt. You need to talk about why like Nigeria is great. You need to talk about why Africa is great in general. Not necessarily censoring your teaching to why, over time you are being taken out of slavery from your land, and this slavery cut across like things like plunder, or you're excluded, or you're being marginalized or killed in your number. That is never the teaching of Black people. We are only resurrecting the sufferings of the Black people, which necessarily does not connote any change at all. On our side of the house, we think if you want to teach, you need to teach the positive aspect of Black people that necessarily cut across to the achievement of the locals, Blacks in the African continent that this debate ultimately ought to interrogate. That means there is an incentive for people to understand the uniqueness of the Black people, not necessarily trying to understand only the sufferings of the Black people and trying to sympathize with you. We don't think that that level of teaching in itself gets any sort of goal on our side of the house. That is why we're very happy to oppose this idea. Again, let's make up like the whole drop back progress that open opposition tells you, right? They say that like this will help to create like some level of like educational enlightenment to Africans, right? Particularly, right? We think that their debate in itself also is completely tied around that same space like the United States. So the educational enlightenment is only going to exist within that space. It's not necessarily an educational enlightenment that cut across the pure reality of what the Black, history in itself, the Black civilization, the Black achievement within dilute and organized Black countries like Nigeria, like Kenya, like Ethiopia. Ultimately, we don't think you get those levels of teaching. You don't even teach people about the Ethiopian Enoch. You don't teach people about the queen of Ethiopia that visited Solomon and all of those things, right? Those level of African achievement that existed post or before colonization, you don't get to teach people about those things. You only teach people about the sufferings, the struggles, right? Because that is what the white people want you to do. Don't forget that the white people are the ones that organize this level of synod. They're the ones that organize this level of event, right? Like the professors in like Harvard that use it as like a seminar, right? We don't think that this idea in this surfaces the true nuances of what Africans in themselves want to hear. When a white kid that is from African history that exists in the United States that nurtures the urge to come back to Africa, every time you want to teach about Africa or you want to celebrate this African Day, Black Day, you only tell the person about, that you are being marginalized. At its best, Farhan considered that we can include this, but it doesn't give you any incentive why the white people will want you to include things like your purer achievement, like the civilization that Africa actually beget that the white have stolen from us, right? They didn't show us why there's an incentive for those people, owing to the fact that they handle the media that will still proliferate this information, that will celebrate and more often picture this event. Right? They don't give us any incentive as to how the white people allow you to romanticize the idea of your achievement locally within African front. We don't think that that idea works. Even when he considered to the argument, it can work on their own side. Why is it better off on our side of the house? We say that on our side of the house, we want a better picture of what African realities in and of itself looks like, not a camouflage of what the West, based on West and Eurocentric narrative that they want you to buy into. But again, we don't want something that in itself is only going to appeal to the consciousness of the white people, because they think it's a way of giving you reparation, because they're giving you a day to more often recount you and to celebrate yourself. We true picture of what African reality is, our achievement, our civilization that have been taken from us by the West. Putting picture on how individual African stories in itself looks like and what we're able to achieve on a larger front within African continent in itself, individual African states in itself is better off than this whole 1 day celebration or 1 month celebration, or even a year celebration that the white in itself creates a utopia for you to romanticize your idea. We think this idea doesn't work, and on that ground, we regret it. But honestly, speaker, we think on that side of the house, we think the West has controlled us for time and memorial. The control of the media is what against, and we're very happy to here.
I've been shouting time is up since. I don't know if anybody has heard me or heard me. So I probably did not take anything you started in seconds. Please quickly before please all the OG, OO, CG, and CO, please stop the speaker's name and speaking order in the speaker, the name speaking loud there, and we round of the entire debate for here. Opposition whip, are you there? So am I audible? Can anybody hear me?
You're audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Thank you very much. Opposition whip. I think we are really behind schedule, and so is member of opposition on this call?
I think he broke off, so just I'm really calling him direct. Just give me a second.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, let's be on time. Sorry, is the opposition whip here now?
Okay, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
I was telling you that I have battery problems. The GW was taking time. Anyways, if you can hear me, that's okay.
I can.
Hello? Opposition. Opposition. All right. Hello? Am I audible? Okay. Hello?
You're loud and clear. I can hear you clearly.
All right, cool. Because I took so much time, I'm no longer going to give shout out. I'll just give one to James. Shout out to James for carrying me this far. I'm kind of in the dark, so I won't be able to see most of my. All right. Mira usachinje ichipa seti fona vipopo percent 2.5% ingoletse mani
Can we please begin your speech? Sorry, opposition whip, is there an issue?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. I'm waiting for you to start your speech.
Okay, sorry, I'm starting now. There was something happening. All right, now let me start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. There's a generalization that exists within the world that you need to understand when it comes to how individuals interact, when it comes to different ideologies, different philosophies that comes from different individuals within countries. What does this specifically mean? We tell you quite a number of things that we think still exist within our world, even if opening government and closing government do not reject the Black Month, History Month. Opening government is all about that they want to literally generalize this ideology to ensure that individuals who exist within the Black community can have a lot of representation, etc. It's not just like dedicating 1 month treat. 2 responses why we think this already exists within modern day status quo. The first year is because if you term a certain month based specifically on representation, it does not necessarily mean that all the other months people do not repeat, don't know their struggles and they don't know what they want to literally ensure that they can literally stop within those ideologies. But the second thing that you need to understand is that there is a central ideology month that needs to be there to ensure that at least we have different contributions to see exactly the type of progress that we literally have done, the type of change that has been impacted within all those 360 circulation, and we think we still gain that form of reformation. This is exactly why James already shows to you that at the end of the day, if we are to engage the dangers, that if we show the idea is the dangers of not having Black History Month, it means that you don't get this form of philosophical benefits at all. It then becomes a fallacy. But the second thing that they talk about is the ideas of how they want it to exist on a high mainstream capacity to create more widespread ideologies over the year, etc., all those fancy principles that they talk about from opening government. Why then do we think Black History Month in itself then terms to be very, very important? a lot of ideologies exist under like modern day status quo within reality. That is to say, a lot of months are dedicated to different things, and we have to ensure that we can capacitate within those different ideologies. At least if we understand from a certain month, we can still represent our ideologies. And at a point in time when we can have those collective ideologies to see the type of contribution that we have done to the entire community, we think that in itself then becomes good to say. So you still get that high mainstream capacity that they talk about, but most importantly, there's still that creation of widespread all throughout the year. So we don't really think there's any form of exclusive benefit that is most commonly from opening government, and this is exactly why they're out. Let's just show you how we like differentiate from our opening before we take out closing government. We think like our opening, they were like, even though if they were good in evaluative analysis, etc., etc. Here's the difference. The first thing here is we don't really get a lot of comparative analysis coming from the of opposition. But the second thing here is James shows to you, like they show you the importance of like the Black History Month. We show you the dangers associated at a point in time when you hear, like when you don't have this Black History Month being there, etc., etc. But now we think like it's time for us to engage like a few things that we gained from closing government, because like this was like literally the weakest bench. Two things here. The first thing is like the CRT point means that Black people are losing social capital because right have managed to explain for racial activity is like for racial activity within the CRT, an ideology created to divide America. This then proves that from opening government's preferred solution, it is impossible because there's no support Black people can get from it. The second is that Black people need to strategically align with the Black Lives Matter movement, since it still enjoys widespread support and investment within it. This is exactly why we show you that we still have that certain benefit within our world, right? But lastly, in terms of what closing government tells to us, right, we think that African Americans are for America. Black people in Africa have Independence Day to remember the struggles. For us, African people have power in their countries, meaning they do not need African American, they don't need this. African American don't have power, and this is exactly what they need to imply. To ensure that that philosophical power is there in the first place, we then create a man that shows that they are literally combining to show the type of contributions that they've literally had within the entire man in itself. POI, I'll gladly check it. CG.
All right. There is a reason why an African American, and it's about them, right? African Americans. I think principle is just right for the Black history to be encompassing from their perspective, diaspora, and their ideal.
Okay, I really don't get that, but I think like we've already engaged to you, right? The major problem, like which closing government does not understand here, is that they think that a collective goal literally needs to be created to ensure that these individuals can like celebrate this within their own African countries. We've already shown you that like this is something that is literally being based specifically on how it needs to be celebrated within the American society. These individuals already have a collective benefit, even if you want to go back to the roots of it. It then talks about the ideas of how these individuals have like if we talk about individuals who exist within the African communities, they have ideas of how they have any form of independence. How then do they ensure that a form of support within the people that exists within faraway, within faraway ideologies is based specifically on how it's based on this Black History Month. This is something that we don't really think there's any form of proof that closing government usually shows that we're going to get. Before I get into the comparative, let's just take one POI from opening government.
Even if they're created by Black scholars, the scholars are still Western Black scholars, so the narrative is still Western-centric exists. But secondly, correlation does not equate to causation. Even if we reject, counter-narrative still exists, and it's even better in our study because we actively focus on it rather than creating recognition about Martin Luther King. He's being dangerous.
Beautiful. We've already shown to you that like Black people within modern status quo, like based specifically on the CRT point, are losing social capital because right-wing politicians have managed to explain for racial activities within the CRT, an ideology created to divide America itself. What then does this prove? It shows that your preferred solution is impossible because there is no support from black people can get from it at all. But the second thing is like to strategically align with the Black Lives Matter movement because it enjoys widespread support and investment within it. That is say you gain that higher mainstream capacity and you get that creation of widespread all through year round. And we don't really think you has any form of engagement based specifically on how you're most likely going to gain this benefit. What have we shown you specifically coming from closing opposition? The first thing is that we engage to you the dangers these individuals don't have, like don't have a blacklist history month at all. The second thing, we show you why it's very important so that they can create some form of interactions and the history of why it was created and the impact that exists with the principle that you are more likely going to speak about it. This is most likely going to engage with what goes from opening gambit and closing gambit because we show you that all those philosophical benefits that they speak about are benefits that are not only exclusive to their world, but we analyze to you how they are most likely exist within our world. Proud to Ignite Open 1.0.
All right, we thank the opposition whip for his remarkable speech. We have now come to the end of today's grand finals. Please, our adjudicators, let's move to the adjudication